I've been working up the mental energy to do this video because I need to, but I really just wasn't emotionally prepared to wear a bra yet. I'm still not, which is why I'm wearing a sweater, even though it's late May and quite warm. Here we go. Hi everyone! So I wanted to cover what healthy eating actually is, and let me be perfectly clear, there's no diet shaming, right? At all. I've done keto because it's specific, the extra fat I'm carrying is a problem specifically for me, okay? Healthy bodies come in all different shapes and sizes. So let me be perfectly clear on that before we get into it. With that out of the way, there's a lot of shaming information when it comes to healthy eating, or the usual stereotype of healthy eating means your food is bland or outright tastes bad. Well, first off, if your food tastes bad or is bland, it's lacking in any significant nutritional quality. You're not going to stick with it, and you probably shouldn't anyways. Your tongue, what you pick up as flavor is literally all these different phytochemicals. Your physiology has evolved to pick up the most flavorful foods. It's why we like them. Now, yes, the macros play their role. That's the sugar, salt, fat, the flavor macros. Because those are the big ones. But it's also going to pick up on all these different phytochemicals and the minerals, and if you don't think you can taste minerals, well, Epsom salts are magnesium, and yes, you will absorb them. Put a little in water, or even just one little bath salt crystal, unscented. Don't put the scented stuff in your mouth. You're going to spit it out. Why? Because it's intensely bitter. Congrats, you just tasted magnesium. Salt. If you don't think there's a like you won't detect smaller amounts, taste regular table salt, excuse me, or pink salt, or any of the more, how do I put this? Any of the salts with a higher mineral diversity. There's a distinct difference. Now, if you don't have a sensitive palate, maybe that's due to a poor sense of smell, or just what you've always eaten. If you've eaten a lot of fast food and stuff, your palate may not be that sensitive. It's okay. The physiology will still work. You just gotta train your brain to actually notice it. There is a stray hair that keeps tickling my face. Fuck you. Ugh. But what constitutes healthy eating, in my books, is looking for nutritional density. Because you can count calories, but if you count the calories in a Twinkie, or an equivalent calorie count in something that is nutritionally dense, there's a distinctive difference in how your body will use it. An excess of poor quality calories, we're talking lacking in nutritional density, is going to hurt you in the long run. It's going to increase your body fat ratio in an unhealthy way. It's going to increase inflammation. It's going to, well, the inflammation all on its own is going to increase your risk of a multitude of diseases, short-term and long-term. So you want to look for nutritionally dense foods. That's what these superfoods are. They're not superfoods, they're nutritionally dense foods. Something that is a superfood is probably potently, like what I would actually class as a superfood. I'll use the word in my book so that, because people are used to it basically. But I use it to refer to nutritionally dense foods. I'm not going to necessarily speculate on how others are using it. It would have to be really potently medicinal and nutritionally dense for me to classify something as a superfood in my mind, not just as a buzzword item. In which case you probably don't actually want to eat it a lot unless you're dealing with a significant chronic illness or acute illness. An acute illness is a short-term thing, a chronic is obviously long-term. Arthritis is a chronic illness. A really bad flu would be an acute illness. So yeah, when looking for nutritionally dense food, that is healthy eating. It should be flavorful. You still want to balance out your macros so that your body has things in the right rough ratio. But there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all diet. Some people, like, there are the curveballs of every, like, grouping. But, hold on. As a human, there are general guidelines that will be true across the board. Like, you need your essential minerals and vitamins that you can't make yourself, such as vitamin C and B12, etc. And rough ratios of what your protein and your carbohydrates and whatnot should look like, but those are only rough guidelines. To figure it out on a more individual level, you're going to look at two main things. I'm really washed out, I'm really sorry. But the first one, you're going to look at genetic heritage as a beginner of a guideline. So if you're Northern European, odds are you can eat dairy without an issue. Northern African as well. There's a few other places where we can eat dairy without issue. That's an example of how genetic origins can give you a starting point. If, however, you are of mixed heritage, whether it's like a 50-50 split or a Heinz 57, it doesn't matter, you've got a little bit more trial and error to figure out. And that brings me to the second point, and that's paying attention to how your body feels. Now, for those who really do have not the best health, if you go really hard on the nutrition, all of a sudden, like, you go from eating McDonald's to suddenly eating superfood smoothies and nothing but hyper-dense nutrition, you might spend a week or two feeling terrible, but it really shouldn't go past 2 weeks. And that's an adjustment phase where your digestion is shifting and changing, the bacteria in your gut are changing. You might want to sleep more, you might have diarrhea, but it should never, ever, ever go past 2 weeks, and you don't want to go that hard on such a big shift. I understand the desire for it, but you would lighten it up with things like white rice. White rice is all calories. Brown rice is more nutritionally dense because the part that would allow it to sprout is still present, which for a plant, anything to grow, or just like for a baby too, requires a lot of nutrients to occur, which is why something like whole grains are nutritionally more dense. If you're going from McDicks to nutritionally dense, then look for the less harmful, not nutritionally dense calories like white rice to pump the brakes a little so you don't have to shit your brains for 2 weeks. That's just an example and just a suggestion, okay? If you don't know how to cook, one way to look at how to improve your diet, pick a regional cuisine you really love, get a cookbook, and start learning. Or you can use YouTube for really good authentic recipes, and that helps you build a good pantry, and that will increase your nutritional density. If you don't have the luxury of doing that, one other way, is to pick 1 or 2 items, stinging nettle or chlorella or blue-green algae, and just start with a morning smoothie and removing the really poor quality foods you've been eating. Again, there is no shame and there's no set size or body type that determines your health. However, nutritional density of your diet will. So, don't let anybody shame you. Eat what makes you happy, but also eat what keeps you healthy too. And on that note, if you like this, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what's up, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.